out.
Okay, so yeah, thank you everyone for joining us this morning, this webinar about the Multiply Fund in Warwickshire. My name is Matthew Epps, and I'm Lead Commissioner Business and Economy in the County Council's Economy and Skills group, and I'm joined today by Jill from our team, who's going to be presenting part of the slides this morning, and then also Steph from our Education Services team, who will be helping answer some of the questions that hopefully you'll have. So we're going to work through about 16 slides, I think it is, and then hopefully at the end there'll be plenty of time for questions. So could you just move on, please, Jill, onto the next one. So yeah, the aim today is to provide more information on the call for Multiply projects in Warwickshire. We're going to talk about the application process and also the indicative timescales, and also provide more information about how we're going to assess and score and select projects. As we go through the slides, please drop comments and questions into the chat as we go along. We'll do our best to answer as many of those today as we can. There might be some that we're not able to answer today, but we'll come back to you all as soon as we can. And we're going to be publishing a frequently asked questions on the Multiply website that we'll be keeping up to date over the next few weeks in the run up to the deadline. Then move on again, please, Jill. There are also probably a few questions that we can't answer at the moment, just because of where we are with DFE and the Multiply process. So the County Council, as the lead authority for Multiply, we had to submit an investment plan for Warwickshire to DFE at the end of June, and at this stage we haven't actually had a decision on that plan, nor have any of the other local authorities around the country. DFE have promised that they should be able to make a decision on those plans and the final funding allocations later in the summer, early autumn. So there are a few things that we fortunately just don't know at the moment, and one of those is the grant terms and conditions that we as the County Council will have to enter into with DFE, and that we will then pass on to you as the successful projects, hopefully. We unfortunately don't have detailed output and outcome definitions, and also information about the evidence requirements. We're waiting for a final decision as to whether Multiply will be subject to Ofsted inspection. We understand that there is a recommendation from the civil servants to ministers, but we don't know which way that is going to go at the moment. And also, we don't know how DFE want us to calculate overheads, and even whether they actually are eligible for funding from the Multiply grant. But at this stage, we're suggesting that those organisations that you apply a 15% flat rate to salary costs. That's an approach that probably some of you are hopefully familiar with from European Social Fund projects. It's a tried and tested methodology, so we're proposing to go with that at this stage. And also, we don't know whether any underspend from year one can be carried over into year 2 and 3, and it's that risk that we may lose some of what Warwickshire's allocation. That's why we've decided to launch the call for projects before we have the answers to all these questions. It's important that the funding gets out to the people and the groups it's designed to support as quickly as possible, but also we don't want to risk losing any of Warwickshire's allocation because of underspends in the first year. So please, can you move on, Jill? So hopefully most people on the call are now aware that we've now published a call for projects. We've decided that that's the best route to identify the activities to be funded by the Multiply Fund in Warwickshire. And if you have a look on our Multiply pages, there's a call for projects on there, an application form, and an annex which we're asking applicants to complete, and also the scoring criteria. And we're asking that those Warwickshire specific documents are read in conjunction with the DFE prospectus and guidance, and the link to that is on the website. The deadline for applications is noon on the 19th of September. We do appreciate that the timescales are far from ideal over the holiday period, but we've tried to choose timescales that hopefully work round people's holidays, depending on whether they're off during August or leaving it until the schools go back in September. But the real reason for why we've had to go with that date is just because of the need to allocate the funding. And on a later slide, you'll see the allocations that we have in Warwickshire across the 3 years. So that unfortunately is the real the driver for why we're having to work to these timescales. Move on, please, Jill. So this is background that hopefully everyone on the call is now familiar with. So Multiply, it's the government's new numeracy programme in support of the Levelling Up agenda. It's part of the new UK Shared Prosperity Fund, and government is keen to fund interventions through Multiply that are additional and over and above those already funded through the adult education budget. It's aimed at adults 19 and over without a GCSE grade C or 4 or equivalent in maths, and government are hoping that adults in that in that group are able to access new support that will help them kind of improve their life chances or get on in work, and also it's aimed at indirectly at employers who obviously will benefit from their workforce boosting and improving their skills. Move on, please, John. So at national level, the activities can run during the current spending review period, so 2022 April through to March 2025. We've decided in Warwickshire that projects can run either over a short period of time or over a number of months and years. Projects can start at risk from the date an application is submitted to the county council, but all projects must end by the 31st of March 2025 in line with the government's timescales, and we're trying to keep it as flexible as possible so we can support as wide a range of projects as possible that address the identified needs in the county, and that the government is looking for delivery to be in person or online. It could be at work or at home. Equally, it could be in the community. on a part-time basis or on an intensive basis, depending on the need that is being addressed. Move on again, please, Jill. So nationally, Multiply is worth just over 550 million. And at this stage, we're expecting to have the allocations that are on the screen in front of you at the moment, split across the years. So that's the amount that we're expecting to be able to allocate to successful projects. But we do have to say now that we're reserving the right to allocate more or less funding. That could be in total or by year, depending on the outcome of the investment plan that we've submitted to government. And also we're reserving the right to withhold funding for later calls for projects. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later, about the circumstances in which we might do that. Move on again, please, Jill. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to Jill, who's going to take you through the rest of the slides.
Thank you. So what types of projects are we looking for? At round one, we're looking to support as wide a mix of projects out of the 10 options of the government's menu of interventions. So we're looking for everything across from large strategic projects county-wide that will provide the scale and impact to as many residents as possible, but also the more targeted interventions for smaller groups, which could be at a local level. We're looking for innovative projects, including short-term pilots, which is partly why we want to reserve the right to hold some money back. So we're happy to fund a short-term pilot in year one or the start of year two, and then we'll hold money back to see if it's been successful to fund it sort of for the rest of the project time. We're looking for things that test new approaches to delivery. We think the fund is quite flexible. We'd like to see something different. We would also encourage partnership working, including large consortium projects, especially from sort of the college groups covered. If they all want to come together, we would absolutely welcome that, or other organisations that want to team up to deliver this provision. The main criteria around it is it must not displace or replace or duplicate what is currently being funded from the adult education budget. It needs to be something to complement this funding. Also, we've worked with the districts and boroughs to make sure that Multiply is aligned with their UK Shared Prosperity Fund plans. So we're not sort of looking for this, trying to sort of duplicate the funding. For this round, we would like the minimum project size to be about 100,000. We reserve the right to change that in later calls. We could lower that for later or increase it for later calls. There is no requirement for match funding, but we would absolutely welcome match funding to add value to the project. So the priority groups for Warwickshire, this isn't exclusive. If you want to deliver to others out with of this, that's fine. We just need the evidence behind it. We're particularly looking for that economically inactive over 50s group, who we're hearing from all of our data are a group that we're looking to target. We're looking to upskill employees and help them with their in-work progression, support with adults for learning difficulties and disabilities, support for adults who have no or only very low level qualifications, care leavers is also one of our key groups, and support for financial literacy. And as we've said, we reserve the right to withhold the funding, and it could be in later years as a result of the pilot or as more data comes out, emerging priorities. We may target these groups. We'll have to see what comes out of the pilots, what comes out of the data. And we would look to extend successful projects as well. So the outputs we're looking at, these are the government's outputs. So it's number of courses delivered in a local area, number of people participating broken down by all of the different equality diversity splits. How many have achieved a qualification broken down again. Number of courses developed in collaboration with employers. Number of people referred from partners onto upskilling courses, and the number of different cohorts participating in the numeracy courses. So the outcomes will be an increased number of adults achieving a maths qualification up to including level 2, either GCSE or functional skills. Increased number of adults participating in the qualification, improved labour market outcomes with fewer numeracy skills gaps, and increased adult numeracy across the population, and increased confidence. We are hoping, we've been promised the output and outcome definition guide, evidence requirements, etc. will be published later in the year. And we do appreciate how difficult it is to sort of develop a project when you don't know the definitions that we're working to. We're in the same boat. So we're asking for this. One thing we've got a little bit of clarity is on the individual learner records. The current guidance we have states that, so if your organisation currently uploads these ILRs, then the Multiply records will need to be uploaded as well, the same as you do for all of the other funded provision. However, it will not be linked to payments. The payments will come from us rather than via the ILR. If your organisation currently does not submit ILR data, then you won't be expected to submit it in year 1. Something is coming to upload it to year 2, so they're developing a new tool. We will require, on top of this, regular progress reports, and we will conduct regular sample checks on both the participant data and the spend. We're not expecting anything surprising in those forms. They're just going to be the standard paperwork, the ILR paperwork. But we haven't actually seen it. The progress reports and things we've been promised will come out soon from DFE as well. So yeah, that's what we know on ILR at the moment. This could all change tomorrow. This is the latest guidance that we have. This is what we are working towards. So, but they are promising a new tool will be developed for year 2 for providers who do not currently upload ILR to be able to do something with it. So how are we scoring it? So the scoring criteria is one of the documents available on the website, and it goes through it question by question, whether it's a pass-fail, what category it's been scored in, etc. As with any application, all questions need to be answered. Some of the questions we've put a word limit on, the rest of them haven't. We would like you to include the documents as requested. Annex A is a document that we've been given that details the spends and outputs per intervention. On top of that, we would like you to develop a detailed quarterly financial budget and a deliverables profile, a risk register, some sort of project plan milestones, and if you're doing any procurement, then a procurement plan. We've deliberately left these documents up to you. You can prepare them in whatever way you want. If you do want, I can put examples up if you need them for the financials and the deliverables. Otherwise, we didn't want to sort of impose our risk register standards on you. You guys can use whatever risk register methodology you want. I don't mind if it's Word, Excel, whatever suits you guys best. We want to sort of leave it flexible. And we understand the tight timescales as well. I don't want you grappling with a load of our forms if you'd be more familiar with your own. So we're going to sort of score them under several themes. So there's a kind of strategic fit theme, and it must be evidence-based. It must demonstrate a clear differentiation with the current provision, especially what Adult Ed Fund, and it must be aligned to the local growth needs. The next sort of theme we'll score it under is deliverability. So this will include all those extra documents that you have got a clear plan for delivery. The data, that the spend is there, you know what you're delivering and when. You've got the systems and processes in place or can be put in place. And you've got your capability to meet the financial requirements and liabilities involved in the extra funding. The other sort of main theme we're scoring it under is sort of value for money. So there's no value for money benchmarks. We're not using the old EU. It must be this amount per participant or anything, because we fully take on board that we want a mix of projects. So we could have one trainer standing in front of 40 employees, which will cost pennies per person, or it could literally be on a one-to-one basis, having to hire a hall somewhere. We're looking for that mix of projects depending on the needs, but it must be appropriate value for money. So it must be efficient, and it must be there must be some sort of economies within it. It needs to be effective, and the activity and the expenditure need to be in line with fund specific rules. So we can't be delivering something that's not within the rules, or there are some expenditure that aren't allowed, which are, to be fair, is very limited. Most things are sort of on the table, but that's all in the Multiply guidance, the DFE guidance as well. We haven't been given a methodology for calculating overheads, if they're even eligible. The 15% EU standard is a proven methodology. We would suggest that if you want to include that, you're more than welcome to include 15% on staff salary for the flat rate indirect costs. The scoring criteria document goes through this in a lot more depth. So the indicative timescales. So we've said the deadline for the applications is the 19th of September at 12 noon. We will look to undertake the sort of eligibility, financial standing, etc. by the end of September. We'll finish the sort of technical assessment of it mid-October. We are looking to pull together a sort of local partnership group, strategic panel to help us have the oversight of this. And then we'll issue the grant letters, hopefully late October. We would like delivery to start by the 1st of November. If you wish to deliver earlier at risk, then we can look at the retrospection. That's absolutely fine. We cannot enter into any agreements with anyone until we get our agreement with ministry, with DFE, sorry. So we are hoping that we'll have our funding agreement with DFE September, October, and then we can issue your grant offer letters in late October. We will give everyone sight of our funding agreement, and the terms and conditions will be passed down to all projects in full. The timescales around this are tight, so but we would like to get some delivery in this side of Christmas, because as you've seen from the allocations, we've got a lot of money to spend in this year, and we've got no clarity if we can carry it over to next year. So that's our sort of indicative timescales. So to summarise it, all of the documents are available on our new Multiply website, which needs to be read in conjunction with the DFE prospectus and guidance. People on this webinar, fabulous. Thank you for sharing the questions. We will gather them all together. But if people are watching this back, please answer any questions, email them through to us at multiply@warwickshire.gov.uk. We'll then answer them on a frequently asked questions document, which we will make available on the Multiply website. As soon as questions comes in and they get answered, we will upload that frequently asked questions document. So as we said, the deadlines for submission is noon on the 19th of September, and email your application form and all of your supporting documents across to multiply@warwickshire.gov.uk. So, any questions? We can have a look through the chat and see if there's any we can answer straight away. Yes, Eddie, the Annex A is published as a PDF. It will be an Excel sheet as soon as we can get that sorted out. I'm happy for whatever, if you want, I can put up an example budget deliverables paperwork, but I'm more than happy for you guys to use your own. Is that all right, Eddie?
Do you want me to take the next one,
okay.
Joe?
Yeah.
Because we put in for previous tenders, can we use the same format? So we have one sheet that has the finances on and the outputs. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine, as long as it's clear what's been delivered quarter on quarter.
Yeah, like we did there and across the different patches as well, because that's part of our delivery plan, isn't it, then, as well?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. That's why we didn't want to put sort of a format on that then everyone has to try and get, because spreadsheets are quite individualized. I don't want people to have to get into my head and figure out how I did that spreadsheet.
Because then the deliverables will be across the different regions, sub-regions, if you know what I mean. So you can see where we're splitting it, and that is just thinking that's probably the best way.
Yeah.
You got no indicative numbers of outputs for the total project, have you?
Nope.
Because that would have been useful. That's all, you know. When we're looking for the value for money sort of thing, and show in that.
It's kind of data driven as well. So if you've got a group if you've got some data that shows that actually there's a group that are really hard to get hold of that only want to deliver 1-to-1 or 1-to-2, 1-to-3, we don't want to exclude that group by saying, well, yeah, you can only spend £500 per participant or something. We don't want to put any benchmarks on it. So we want to help people. And that's as long as
it's
the
just
value
how
of
we
money.
show that. It's just how we show that costing. That's all.
Exactly. Yeah, but I mean, in terms of the value for money, we'll be looking at, you're not spending £1,000 to hire a hotel room for one day. That's a bit over the top. However,
there I was. I've got my next holidays sorted.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
So it's looking at sort of.
No, I know what you mean.
Reasonable spend, realistic spend, I suppose is the best word. Yeah.
So dissemination events and stuff like that. It's got to be realistic, you know.
Yeah.
DFE have kept it flexible, so we're trying to do the same thing. I think you've said it, Jill. It's about evidence. So evidencing the costs needed to reach the groups that the project is trying to target and deliver the outputs and outcomes that the project is proposing to deliver. So I think it's about evidence and referring to current delivery where perhaps that helps.
Yeah, I have pretty questions, but the talk about spreadsheets and that, the Annex A is I don't know if it's a PDF or something, but it's not editable. Is that going to be you're going to put a new version up for that?
Yeah, it should be an Excel. It's an IT issue. So we'll get that sorted. We're waiting for that. We'll chase IT again this morning.
Okay, thank you. I'm just thinking. Well,
I know. Believe me, IT are aware that I'm not overly happy about it.
We felt it was just better to get a PDF version live as a holding document that Excel will be available as soon as possible, and we'll make sure that goes on the site as soon as we can.
It's okay. I just wanted to make sure I could do it because people going on holiday and you know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
I can send that across to you, Eddie, and if anyone else wants it emailed across, I can email it across.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Just gonna make the same point. Yeah, if it looks like it might take more than kind of 48 hours, then I think we'll offer there to email it to anybody who wants it in the meantime.
Thank you very much.
So there's a question from Adrian. So yes, at the moment, all Multiply activities are being commissioned out. So the amount that was on that slide is the amount that's available. We're putting it all out through this same open and competitive process, but that there is a chance that we may have applications from other parts of the county council, but they will go through the same process as external applicants, and we're making sure that there's appropriate kind of a separation of responsibilities put in place across the organisation to manage those interests. There's your question, Eddie, about the indicative numbers. I think we've kind of covered that one already. Nick, and then again Adrian, yeah, thank you for the 2 comments. We've tried to give as much time as we can, but obviously we've had to work within the government timescales and want to make sure that we both allocate the money as quickly as possible to where it's needed, and also don't risk losing any of it. Annex A, so again, it's the same PDF question that we've dealt with. Jill, there's a question 1 from Steve. Question 1D doesn't have a word count.
No, that's fine. The question is, what are the timescales? So we were assuming that would just be a sort of sentence or 2 coming back to say we'll deliver it between this date and that date. So we didn't put a word count. If you want to explain anything and further, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, and then Adrian, you've asked whether we're open to any of the 10 deliverables, and yes, we are. Again, we wanted to keep it as flexible as possible, so applications welcome across any or all of the 10 deliverables in the government's menu. Question from Lee. Do you perhaps want to explain, Lee, a bit more about what you mean, please? So
hi everyone. Yeah, so as a practitioner and a provider, I just it's been very much focused upon what we're going towards, but the endpoint of learners. So I think that needs to be, well, it needs to be whoever gets the contract. It needs to be incredibly important that the learners are the foresight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the kind of the impacts are as important as the kind of outputs and outcomes, and the impact both for the learner and for an employer where appropriate, and the Warwickshire economy more widely. But also I think the experience for the learner as well is equally important. And I think that's something that both we and DFE are keen to capture throughout the process. And there's formal, we're expecting kind of formal kind of evaluation to be built into the model. And I think that's something we can perhaps share more information about once we're once we have it from DFE. Was there anything, Jill or Steph, that you wanted to add there?
We still don't have the output definitions, so we're hoping that when we get them through, it will be clear that the projects need to achieve something for the learner as well. The learner will be at the heart of all of this.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Will you be posting those outcome definitions as soon as you get them on the portal? It'd be useful before the tender has to be submitted if possible, because they do have a bearing on actually how the outcome's achievable when we put it in,
I know. It was hard to write an investment plan when you didn't know what the deliverables were. That's as soon as we get anything through, we'll put it on the portal. And I mean, I'm thinking if we want to set up a mailing list as well, we could email out to the people that have attended these calls if everyone's up for that. So as soon as there's sort of substantial updates to the portal, we can let you guys know. That'll be an
Yeah.
easy thing to set up. Yeah.
And I think that the same applies to the kind of grant terms and conditions. We appreciate that it's very difficult to submit an application until you know kind of what you're going to have to kind of sign up to. But I think, as we've said a few times, we kind of we are where we are with this, really, and it's trying to weigh up the pros and cons of waiting until we had all the information from DFE versus some kind of delays in the money being allocated and risking losing some of it at year one. So I think, yeah, we'll share information as we get it, and look to include that in the FAQs, and also those who do contact us, we can mail it out as soon as we get more information from DFE. Okay. So looks like that's it question wise, unless anyone wants to kind of perhaps put their hand up and ask any final questions rather than putting them in the chat. No. Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, or watching this back later if that's what you've if that's what you're doing. Thank you for your interest in Multiply in Warwickshire, and like we've said, information on the Multiply web page is on the County Council's website. There's an email address there for questions and queries at any time. We'll publish publish frequently asked questions based on what we've talked about today, and then we'll update that as new questions come in over the next few weeks. And also we'll commit to publish any updates on there as well, in terms of more information that we get from DFE over the next few weeks. So just finish by thanking everyone again for attending, or for watching this back, and we look forward to receiving your applications.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you for your.
Thank
you very much.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.